Okay. So before I start, actually, I'll type that in here. Before I start, just to make sure that all works well, feel free to type comments in the comments section, wherever that is, right or left, and then I'll be able to reply to them. Hold on, maybe I can even write that on the screen. Feel free to write comments next to the live stream and ask, okay, actually ask questions. Okay, there we go. And I'll make it a little bigger. Whoa. There we go. Oh yeah, cool, thanks. That also makes sense. I just put that on as like text on the bottom of the screen. Now everybody knows. Cool. Okay, so there's more people in now. I'm gonna record this, so even though you might not be, you don't have to ask any questions. If you do, write them in. I'll try to get back to them whenever there's time. Otherwise, we'll record this anyway, so if you want the recording, write that in. I'll get in touch with those who asked for a recording already. And let's walk through what happened. So this is session 3, ideally. We have about a half an hour until the actual user test starts, so until Thomas joins in, but I wanted to use that half hour to go through everything and answer some questions. If you don't really care, feel free to, listen to all of this stuff in the background and join in half an hour at 6. Then we'll actually go through the conversation, but I'll try to go through everything we've done, and let's see, if you have any questions I can answer them basically right away. So last time I think we were about here, and we wrote out the user story, kind of decided on what we want to build, what we want to do, and that user story we took and placed these post-its across different parts of the board, like a storyboard, and then filled them out basically with what we already had, which would be the concepts created from here, from this week, last week. And
do you think we can make the mirror board bigger on your screen?
Oh yeah, good point.
It's full screen.
Mm-hmm. Or actually, yeah, I might.
It might be worth just recapping from the beginning for anybody who's only just got to this first bit, so not from last time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that makes sense. So, gallery view. Yeah, so what happened in general? So whoever hasn't watched this at all, welcome. This is the design sprint that we ran with Mike from Hummingbot, or Hummingbot itself. You can look up Hummingbot, it's hummingbot.io. They're software that lets you automate and create trading bots in order to trade in different cryptocurrencies and kind of get the highest reward based on that. And Michael had the amazing idea to basically build a system that supports individual trade pairs by letting you trade and hold their asset by investing in them, and not only trading with them so you get a higher return, but also kind of provide them with liquidity if you choose to invest in these particular trading pairs. So we started off with just like talking about what that whole thing is supposed to be, prioritizing goals and challenges along the way, drawing out a map of what we think the kind of user flow is supposed to be generally or theoretically. And based on that, we did some research and created some concepts. So the research was like basically screenshots of what we think could solve the the problems and like have a similar goal or solve challenges that we came up with that would make sense in this context of building that kind of software. And we looked at a lot of different interfaces. There's things like Coinbase or Ledger, or the thing that we've worked on, or like these are just like my examples. Tails. There's also things like Binance or Staked. Anyway, there's a lot of different examples. If you're interested in exactly those, that recording will also publish at some point online on the same YouTube channel. So like and subscribe. Subscribe, and then you'll be able to see when we post these updates. And the very first session is basically the research one, so we go in detail through every single one of these examples and explain why it's good and what's cool about it. Yeah, so then basically we took all these examples and draw a bunch of sketches for what we think the page or like the whole product is supposed to look like. It's in short a tracker, like a monitoring tool for your bot that displays you the best trading pairs, or like the ones that you want to invest in, and also gives you a dashboard of how much you're actually making based on what you're producing and what you're where you're trading. So there's yeah, I guess I'm not going to go into too much detail of that, but we just drew these concepts individually and then put them together, voted on them, created this user journey for the exact steps for which the product is supposed to have, which is like the main user journey. You can see that as like the main idea, journey the potential users are supposed to go through. And these we applied to a storyboard and drew out every single frame individually, so we know exactly what's on there, and that's based on things that already exist and things that we've sketched out before. So there's very little that we actually invented, even though it looks like we came up with all of it from here. But there's a lot of these screenshots. So yeah, it starts off with actually a Telegram window, and that's the reason for that is that if you want to kind of test your thing, you should always start with a point that people are familiar with, so you pick them up in their space. We'll see that later. It will be just much easier to introduce exactly what it is to Thomas, and he'll be able to kind of understand where he is and what he's looking at. Even though he doesn't really know what the product is about and probably doesn't have the technical background for everything that we built compared to all the other testers that we've scheduled for today, it will still be kind of easier to get in. So if you want to test something, I recommend using something like, just use something, whatever people know already, like a Google search or a Medium article, and then go from there into the actual prototype. So yeah, and then we have like a landing page, some details on different markets that people want to do. We connect them with MetaMask. We let them set up the whole thing. It's kind of a guideline to how to set up everything. We let them connect the whole thing with Binance, and then once it's running, they actually have that bot running and they can go and check out the interface. So the biggest challenge, I guess, in this thing was to remove as much friction as possible from coming on this thing and like landing on this page and understanding what it shows, and then setting up the entire bot, setting up the whole system so that it actually works. So we wanted to make sure that people don't get distracted or understand where they are at all times and go through these weird friction points, which are actually not really useful. So things like connecting MetaMask, or you need to connect this whole system to an exchange. You need to install the software, like you need to install the client. There's a lot of kind of side steps to go from where we are in the beginning, which is, we're saying you could earn 42.3% on your money. Yeah, that's great. And actually at the end where you have that thing running and you actually kind of seeing how much you're making. And so this is kind of the biggest challenge, and we're going through that, and that's going to be more or less the core of the test that we're going through today. And I can show you the prototype itself. That looks like this. it starts with Telegram. And I can see it's all super beautiful. Charlie designed that all. Look at it. It's all made by hand. So yeah, it's exactly the same things as we have in the storyboard, except they now look like an actual thing. So, I mean, obviously these are just the screens in Figma. But if we go through here, you can see, yay, this is a Telegram window. And then you click on the link, and then we go into a different page, and that's like the whole thing that, like this Hummingbot's website. And then we go through all this stuff here. I'm just gonna click through. This is like all set up from Binance that I wanted to just go through. Like all of these screens might seem unnecessary because they already exist, but we're not testing the screens. We're testing like the whole flow. We're testing the friction points. So it will be interesting to see how people like that, or if they don't like it, or if there's anything that we can fix. Because some things you can fix, some things you can't. And then, yeah, this is a dashboard. That's just showing you how much you've made, and overall, that's kind of the main concept. Cool. Yeah, it's actually, yeah, I should have done like 15
Can I
ask
minutes. Some questions about the process?
Yeah, sure. You can play the question Q&A.
I can be the question master.
Yeah.
How many? I know the answers, so this is kind of funny. But how many users will we show the prototype to when we run the sprint?
We normally show them to 5 people. Today we have 4 so far, at least. Maybe we'll have another one, but 4 is also fine. One just kind of dropped off. That happens sometimes, or sometimes people just reschedule stuff. That also happened. But yeah, you don't want to overshare or overdo the user testing, because normally after 2 interviews you understand there's a lot of similarities, and then after 3 you realize most of them, and then 4 and 5 are more like to prove all the overlaps between all the feedback among these people. And they're usually so fundamental, this feedback or these things, that you can definitely make up, you can definitely understand what the main criticism is about the whole product and where to go from there.
What do you then do with the results? Do you type them up? Do you present them anyway? Do you play back the interviews to the client? What's the kind of, what do you do with the data from it?
Right. So that's a funny question, because you are going to write this down. So the reason
cool.
Welcome to the team. So the reason why we're 2 here is because I will ask the questions, and because just interviewing and keeping track of all of it, interviewing and keeping track of all the answers is quite a lot of cognitive load. We usually do it we do it together. So I'm gonna ask questions, I'm gonna talk to the person, and Charlie, or you, are going to write down the feedback on little post-its, or in the post-its, whatever, or on paper, and then we'll go through that on the Miro board, or wherever we can, wherever we kind of do that. Maybe it makes sense for today to do it in Miro, but generally it doesn't matter where to write them down. But as long as we have a good good amount of feedback, we categorize that by certain questions, and then or certain parts, specifically regarding the questions and challenges that we've set up beforehand. So we would categorize them by what's the long-term goal, what's the current questions, and how does that feedback answer those, and also based on the individual steps, so we just have a better overview. I think we have another live stream session tomorrow, and I can show how we did that tomorrow. But in general, we write that out in a very readable format, which basically kind of shows the individual steps with every single screen, like not actually a screen, but like separate parts of the process that we're going through. And then we analyze that. We try to understand what that means, where the overlaps are, depending on how frequent that feedback comes or how important that seems. And then we write out like a little report of what we think that means, what, in our opinion, how we can apply that feedback to the either implementation or another iteration of the screens to make it like really seamless.
What about what are the common pitfalls that people, common mistakes people do when they do a user test?
I don't know. There's a lot.
If you could pick one,
I think like in my perspective, most people see user testing as asking questions. I don't think that's a good approach. Just like from a, I guess, psychological or journalistic perspective, you don't want people to answer questions. You want to understand how they actually feel about what they see. So it's more of like, I try to keep it more as a conversation, even though it's like a little bit guided, obviously, by questions. It, people should feel safe where they answer, and they should know that they can tell the truth and say that they don't like something, or that they need more explanation on something, because people are scared and they don't like saying that they don't like something because they are afraid that they might hurt someone else's feelings. But I have a stone cold heart. I don't get hurt.
Once we've built the prototype, we've done the user testing, we've prepared the report, what level of design does that typically mean a client? What can a client then do with the results of that?
After the test? Sorry.
Yeah, so after the whole sprint process, so they've got the prototype as a deliverable, they've got the user tests, and then they've got the report from the user tests. What generally then happens after that?
Well, either we iterate on that because sometimes there's still a couple of things that need to be solved, or a few kind of interface bits, or they implement it. Like there's nothing much. Like normally the fidelity is so high. Like obviously you can make it even prettier. You can spend more time on making it super pretty, but generally the goal is to have a prototype that looks exactly like the real product, so people actually feel like they're seeing something that's real. Like you don't want to show them wireframes or something. Don't do that, please.
I know the answer, but how does like the sprint particularly help, say, a development team? Like, so they don't just get the designs, but how might it help with the actual development process?
They get a lot of assets. They get a lot of things already done. I think another answer to that question is that they can already, like, they understand the reasoning behind all the design decisions during the sprint. Especially if you have someone like a CTO or someone who's responsible for developing it during the sprint. There's a multi-expertise knowledge exchange among everyone, and like designers get to understand the business perspective, developers get to understand the design decisions, business people understand what's actually possible, and so there's an inner exchange between information across everyone who participates, and there's a lot of kind of value from that. And then once all of this is done, you can pretty simply take this apart, create it like an asset library, and forward that on for like front-end development, for instance. If more needs to be done, you already have like the core product. You understand what this whole thing is supposed to be. I think that's that. You're muted, by the way. I mean,
That happens a lot.
yeah. You can also, if you want, you can also answer that question yourself if you have a different answer.
Yeah, I think there's one point to add. Sorry, I've got completely distracted. There's an amazing full moon rising over out the window. But
Oh shit.
yeah, I can't turn my whole monitor on. And you probably wouldn't see it anyway. I think the point to add was one of the main things with development teams is, and from the user feedback, is that in 1 week, not only do you have the prototype, but the users kind of really start to guide the product direction. So rather than starting off with a gigantic list of features that you want to implement, you understand what are the ones that are most important and what's the core things that you need to develop. So it kind of matches the market and the business needs to what your product wants and desires are, which is kind of like the classic agile methodology and thinking.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
So those kind of the result is you end up coding less and you get your products out a lot quicker with things that people actually want to use and love.
Yeah. That's actually a good point, because you get to prioritize everything that you've come up with, and even from these things, not everything is important, but you through the user tests you get to understand which are the areas that are actually like super important, or where did people see most of the value, so you can actually, specifically target those areas and build on those, and then see what are the things that you came up with that might not be that great. Like a lot of times we build prototypes and then like the team says, hey, this is the most amazing thing ever, it's has the biggest potential. Like with Molecule, they were like, this is great, we need to show people how bonding curves work, like we have to focus everything around bonding curves. And then turns out people don't get bonding curves at all, and not only that, they also don't give a shit. So they only want to see like how much money they get. If you want to know what that means, Google bonding curves. It's quite an interesting concept that works with tokens.
I want to add to that about the developers comment. I think one of the reasons that we start, when I met Andre, I was like, the design sprints are perfect for Web3 and blockchain, was that generally, like in Web 2.0, say you were doing Facebook or Instagram, you could quickly release a product, and there was the notion of move fast and break things. And it didn't really matter if you kind of like lost people's photos, but in this kind of domain, we're talking about people's money and people's funds, which can't necessarily be replaced in the same way. And the problem is development cycles then go through not just developing the product, but then you've got adding in things like decentralization. So it's kind of like these extra features which users might not even care if they can vote or do governance, for example, or they might not really care about the details of it. Or, for example, you've then got auditing as well, which means that not only once you've built all this code and a massive product, you then got to audit all and get it out there. And that process takes so long, you never really know until the end of it whether you built something that users want. And I think a lot of projects in this space, the reason they haven't got traction is because they spent sometimes even years building a very complex product. But it isn't until they've actually released it with a fully working thing that they've actually started talking to users. So the design sprint is, hey, here's a full working prototype of the whole thing, or the most important part. Is this thing useful? Do you want to use it? Which bits are the most important? And then you go away and just build those bits.
Yeah.
Andre, I think we've got 5 minutes. So do you want to recap? Should we recap through the whole sprint process? And then I think that'd be like lined up perfectly for Tom.
Yay.
Right from the how might we's. I think that'd be super cool to see.
2 more notes that I wanted to add to what you just said. One is basically that even though it sounds simple, saying like, do you want that product, or do you need it, or what would you like to have in there in a conversation for a user test? That's not the best way to. I mean, this is just Charlie's summary. It doesn't mean that that's the way we ask the questions, because you actually don't want to ask. You don't want to ask people yes or no questions. You want to make them think about stuff, and tell them like questions. I mean, I usually ask them like, what's the scenario that you can imagine yourself using this?
I think it's even better than that, because the way we answer those questions is not by asking them, it's by actually presenting the authentic, real product to them.
Exactly.
You get to experience it.
Yeah, and the other thing is, we also don't want to like listen to people. We don't want to like listen to like we don't only want to listen to. Obviously, we want to listen to them, not just like no whatever. But we want to understand their tasks in life that they want to fulfill, and then how this product fits into that world. So it's not just we're not asking them for features or for help. We're asking them or like for what they actually want, but we're showing them and putting that in a context that makes us understand where is that exactly beneficial in their life, and what's the criteria for how we can help make that better. It's a little bit of a kind of
Let's see
twist
the overview.
outcome thing. Yeah, sorry, I'm talking too
My
much.
mum just gave us some feedback, and she says she wants to see it.
Cool. She also one of
You can't do a live stream about inviting your mum to it, can you? It just seems appropriate.
Yeah. Right. So cool. Yeah. Welcome everyone. I don't know if you're watching the recording or not. This is about the time where maybe the recording will start. Let's see. Technically, in the last half hour, we've been through a couple of things about the user tests. You'll see one in 3 minutes. Before that, I'll just show you quickly again this overview of this whole board. We used that to go through the entire process of collaboratively figuring out what we actually need with Michael from Hummingbot. Have a look at hummingbot.io to understand what we're building. And oh yeah, there it was. Yeah, basically together we figured out collaboratively, without conversation, everything was written down and voted on a long-term goal and some sprint questions, which are basically challenges. Based on those, and this is like all you can see here, based on those we figured out or actually not based on those, we also figured out the entire journey that people were going through when they are currently using that product or will actually use that in the future, which starts with discovery, and then they would check back every now and then to have a look at how that thing runs. Based on these goals and based on what we've came up with, we looked at a lot of research or a lot of other examples for products that are already doing something similar, in addition to what we already know. And then together, or actually individually, we created a bunch of concepts. So everyone on the team, who were 4 people, created a concept each, which is just on paper and not digital, but is supposed to encapsulate everything and all the ideas that we think would be best to push forward and to build a prototype with. And then we took that and together with another session of brainstorming the user flow, we built together a storyboard, which you can see here. It looks pretty crappy, and you might not understand what it shows, but it's exactly the data and exactly the words, sorry, that need to be on the prototype, which had to be designed, and we got to that in Figma and built that. And Charlie designed that here and make it look really, really pretty, so that now we have that stitched together and we can basically guide people through it in Figma, and we'll see what they think. Again, if you have any questions, at least for if you're watching the live stream, not if you're watching the recording.
What if you're not watching the recording?
What if you're not
watching?
If you are
watching the recording, how
if you're not watching the recording, just watch Netflix. If you're watching the recording, you can also post questions in the comment section, or send us an email at deepwork.studio.
Or Twitter.
Or Twitter. Oh, yeah.
Deepwork_studio.
Yeah. Very good. That's how you will find us. But generally, for right now, write them in the chat, and later use comments or Twitter. I guess that works. Or LinkedIn. Or telephone. Or Morse code. I don't know. Don't use Morse code. Okay, basically we're waiting for Thomas now. Thomas! Yeah, that's the... Actually, yeah, no, he might Just need a couple of minutes. We have a bunch more people lined up for later, but we're not live stream those. That was very useful information, I know. Also, this live stream is a little bit delayed. Anyway, so this live stream is apparently a couple of minutes delayed, so if you're tuning in and there's nothing going on, I mean, I'm saying that too late now, but it will start at some point. This is the screen. Yay!
Yay!
There it is.
Hey, Charlie.
Hey, Thomas, how are you?
Good, good. Hold up. Let me just fix my lighting.
Thank you very much.
In a very bright apartment.
Yo.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
You haven't met Andre before, have you?
Yo, hey, I'm Andre. Nice to meet you.
Hey, we've met super briefly before. Good to see you.
Right.
Yeah, of course.
Wait.
I think for a call with Wire, I guess.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
Yeah. Awesome.
Sweet.
Cool. I think we'll jump straight into the user test if that's all right, and then we'll chat at the end. So I think we've got people are watching, which is pretty cool.
Yay.
Yeah, awesome.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for your time. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm super excited to participate, by the way.
Cool.
Yeah, you guys always do a fantastic job at these things, so I'm like taking notes for my own user testing.
Thanks. You can also rewatch that later and just see where like, where you answered some questions right or wrong. No, it's not going to be like that. It's not a test.
Good user. It's very meta then, huh?
Yeah, exactly. No, it's not a test. Like we're not testing you, obviously. Testing the thing. But yeah, cool. Thanks for joining in. There's a couple of things before I start. First of all, don't really worry about being honest and saying that you don't like something, and that you don't have to say that everything is amazing, even though things might be great. But it would be actually also super helpful if you say things that you don't like, because that's actually the kind of stuff that helps us, iterate on that and make it better. So I'm going to send you the link in the chat here. Before, hold on, is that actually, how does that work?
Just to let you know, I'm here to mainly take notes. So Andre will do most of the talking, and I'll jump in if you need anything.
Yeah, and Charlie, yeah, exactly. So Charlie's going to take some notes. That's the reason why we're here.
And is my sound okay, by the way?
Yeah.
Am I echoing? Maybe I should put on some headphones.
Whatever you prefer, but I can hear it really clearly. It's totally fine.
Okay.
And yeah, do you know anything about the project that we worked on, or the prototype at all?
So in the tweet, I did see that it's still for Hummingbot, and I've discussed the marketplace super briefly in passing with Michael before.
Cool.
But I'm not, I'm not 100% sure what the solution is.
Okay, cool. Yeah, let's see where it starts making sense. If it doesn't make sense at all, just let me know. I think some parts I can definitely explain to you. Some parts should be more or less self-explanatory. So we'll see. But yeah, could you open up the thing and then share your screen so I can see just where you're pointing? Would that be okay?
Yeah, sure.
Or just share the window of the prototype if you don't want the whole world to see all the tabs.
Yeah, let's see. Thanks.
Nice.
Cool.
Yay, perfect, thank you. Let me just drag this in here. So this is just a Telegram window, I guess. Might have figured that out already. But there's do you know Harmony?
No.
Okay, so they're basically a a team that have a token. They're building a pretty interesting system, but it doesn't really matter what exactly they do. But they have like this online community where people exchange stuff about it, and on the very bottom, there's a post that leads to Hummingbot, and maybe if you, yeah, you can read through that, and I mean, yeah, and maybe just have a look at the page and scroll through it, and could you actually like talk through your thoughts out loud? That would be really cool, just to kind of whatever you kind of think of from top to bottom.
Okay, so it seems like these guys have a new token, then Hummingbot has some sort of solution for that token. Support Harmony by providing liquidity and get rewarded. Okay.
Yeah, just imagine you like Harmony, you like their token, or you like the project. Like you can basically replace that with whatever you know as a good project. And
okay, so seems like Hummingbot's calling out market makers to come and provide liquidity somehow, and they'll get rewarded. Let's see, running Hummingbot enables liquidity mining for Harmony markets. Liquidity mining returns are 42%. Okay, that's pretty high. Even for market making, right?
Mm-hmm.
So start mining in 3 easy steps. Sign up, download, run bot. Okay. How does it work? Okay, well, I'm curious how it works. It seems like it's some sort of automated bot. I'm a little confused what liquidity mining is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I have a tiny bit of context, but
right.
It seems like
it's a made-up term.
Seems like a made-up term, yeah. And I'm curious how it's different from plain old market making. Like if this market maker were to work directly with Harmony.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, just for context, it is a made-up term. But yeah, so like the these 3 easy steps on below, yeah, they probably they give you like a little bit of context what you're looking up for, or like
it seems like the regular Hummingbot experience, right?
Right. Okay. Yeah.
You're downloading Hummingbot and then you're running a bot.
Okay.
So
cool.
That much I'm used to.
Okay. Cool. Okay. Then yeah, just carry on. I mean, you can just like click yourself through it.
Okay.
The FAQs don't really work.
Okay. Hummingbot miner.
Yeah, the first one is the one token is the Harmony token.
That's the Harmony token. Okay. Exchange Binance. So that immediately tells me I need to have a Binance account. Binance API keys. Spread 1.2%. I'm okay. So I probably want to know what kind of. So I when I'm at this page, I assume that you're about to start running a bot. Like this is the step before you're run some sort of bot.
Yep.
So an idea of the strategy that I'm using would be interesting. Maybe the strategy is this liquidity mining thing. So that's what's running through my head right now.
Yeah.
Wallet to sign up. Interesting.
Yeah.
I would have thought that I needed to connect a Binance account.
Right.
And a wallet, right? Maybe if it's a cross market bot.
Yeah.
Available markets. Okay, I would think this is more broadly speaking outside of the Harmony program.
Yeah.
These are the other liquidity mining markets available.
Yeah. Why do you think they're there?
To compare, I immediately I'm looking at the spread and the return potential.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I like this. This is really useful.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, it also, or like, yeah. Do you think you could change? Like, you could, select one of the other markets. Like I know it's not clickable right now. It's actually
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah, if I were to click one of these, I would expect it to
right.
pop up here where I can connect wallet to sign up for that market.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Then go ahead.
Okay. Connect to wallet. All right. So these are all Web3 wallets. Some of them I haven't heard of before, but okay. So usually use Portis.
Yeah. We only make MetaMask work.
MetaMask. Connect. Set up Hummingbot miner to start earning. Okay, settings.
Does that make sense?
Sort of. I don't see what the point of having a settings button is. Like, why am I not just directed to this page?
Right. Yeah.
Because I already connected it right on the MetaMask. Maybe you could get some sort of almost like a webhook or something from us that tells the client side to go directly to this page.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Before you click anything, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. Here I'm thinking I need to connect pair Hummingbot with your ID.
Yeah, or maybe go back one step and then just maybe talk or say what you were about to say.
Yeah, so there's clearly some additional steps that need to be taken. It seems like the wallet step was just for like identifying myself. I'm guessing that when you connect the wallet, you sign some sort of message or something.
Right.
So now the client side, this website, right, this web app knows who I am, and there's some additional steps that need to be taken.
Yeah.
Hummingbot client. So either the Hummingbot client, I'm guessing, runs on this web app, or it's still the CLI.
Yeah. What do you think about like these additional steps? Like, because you mentioned there's clearly more additional steps that need to be taken. Is that something that you didn't expect, or?
That I was kind of expecting. I didn't expect it to come up
right away.
So I expected it because when we were here, I was like, oh, so as soon as I saw Binance here, I was like, okay, I have to connect Binance at some point.
Okay.
And in the connect wallet step, I figured that was the client, right?
I see.
That I need to hook up, that the client would be native on this web app.
Right.
So when I'm asked again to, when I click this, I can see that I need to download a desktop app, right? Or possibly it's a CLI thing.
Right.
So that part was unexpected. But the exchanges, that was, it was kind of aforementioned.
Yeah. What do you think so far are actually the steps, like if you were able to kind of rewrite the steps that are necessary to make this happen? Or like to, finish
this? I'm thinking. Well, okay, you did mention it here. Maybe you just mention it as an additional step or as part of step 2, like connect to your, hook up to Hummingbot client by connecting your exchange wallet and I think if you just made it a little bit more clear here, it's fine. It's not. I don't think it's sense. Like it's not like ruining the user experience or anything.
Right.
It's just detail.
Yeah.
On my feed, I can't think of a.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's totally perfect. That's very helpful already. That makes a lot of sense because I mean, definitely we want to keep them to as few steps as possible, but that there is a friction point is already like really helpful feedback.
So, okay, I think so. As soon as you set up Hummingbot client and link it to your ID,
Yeah.
and hook up your exchanges, that's all saved in your account. That's what I'm getting by like being in the settings tab.
Yeah.
So this is almost like a one-time setup thing.
Right.
So when I go back to these markets,
yeah,
you know, granted that they're running on the same exchanges,
right,
that would already be set up. So
yeah,
I can see what drew you to calling it all settings.
Right.
Maybe you could call it like something else, like exchange connections.
Right.
Yeah, because that makes sense for a trader, right? Because for a crypto trader, you're used to hooking up a bunch of different Binance API keys.
Makes sense.
You're used to hooking up. Well, I think in the future you'll be used to hooking up a bunch of your Web3 wallets.
Yeah.
Like, let's say you're trading through Portis, Fortmatic, and MetaMask, but you don't want to be limited to your profile being a link to one Web3 wallet. Maybe sign like multiple signatures, right?
Right.
And link it all to some profile somehow. Maybe you hash everything, I don't know. But
it's probably also clear that you need to connect APIs, right? So like it's...
Yeah, that's like all. This is all par for the course, right? Connecting API keys. Right. So I can see why you put it in settings. I think calling us something different would be interesting.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Okay, so...
Oh yeah, just click there. I think that's just
pair Hummingbot with ID. Cool. Okay, so I'm guessing there were some steps I needed to take.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, right. Imagine you just put that pairing ID into Hummingbot.
Okay, it's still the CLI thing?
Yes.
Okay, got it. Okay, then I connect
and like exchange. You've installed Hummingbot, etc.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, we're just gonna go through all of this stuff. This is like obviously Binance, so I just wanted to kind of... Yeah, I think you can click wherever.
Go here. Okay.
You don't have to go through these screens particularly, but I mean, their UX is pretty terrible. But I think it's in settings. Yeah, and then API. Yeah, right. And then you have to give this a label, create. Let's imagine you stick your unique key in. You get an email, then you open that email, and there you have the API keys. And then you can copy that.
Okay.
And, ooh.
Okay. So that's connected.
I'll just check.
Now I would think that
yeah, like imagine you just like put that code in. Sorry.
Yeah, and I would think that when I go to the markets tab, maybe like it shows the liquidity mining markets that I can participate in now that I'm hooked up to at least Binance, right?
Yeah.
And have Hummingbot client connected. Okay. Cool. So I'm just gonna click next.
Yeah. This is Hummingbot. Like, I don't know if you've ever opened the CLI.
I played with it when it was in like version 0.000.
Oh wow, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, in order to... This is just, to show you that you have to get your bot running. And yeah, just imagine you went through all of this, and then you can click from there.
Oh, so okay, cool. So the bot's running now. And then okay, and that's pretty clear to the user because you literally like went into the CLI and made it happen.
Yeah.
Okay. activity. All right.
Yeah, maybe you can also go through the individual bits that you can see on the screen and
Yeah.
how they make sense or what's, what the content is supposed to be.
Okay. So next payout. I didn't know these things were coming in arrears like that. So that could have been. So I didn't realize that. Okay, so these payouts are. So I'm a little confused. Yeah, exactly. Why are the payouts weekly? How did I get to these amounts?
Right.
Did I make those configurations and when I set it up in the CLI?
No.
Okay, so probably upfront, knowing what the payout structure is like, and how I can configure my bot to make more money effectively.
Yeah. That's a good point. So
yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's an interesting point. So it might make sense if there was some kind of link out into like the docs that would explain to you how you can optimize your bot, because this is like a monitoring tool, right? And yeah, like if there was something that would link out into how to make your bot, earn more money or better, or what would be.
How do you think you? Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
How do you think you earn the rewards?
By providing liquidity, right? So there's probably different ways of measuring that. Could be narrowing the bid-ask spread, could be decreasing slippage, but there's some like empirical way that Hummingbot or liquidity mining is calculating that. I'm guessing, and due to how efficient I am at it, I'm getting some sort of payout that's going to serve to that. I'd also be curious, like, if the payouts decrease, if there's more people using the system, and how all that's shared. Because if more people are using this bot, the liquidity would be better and kind of like marginally less better with every bot that you add.
Yeah.
Or marginally less impact, I should say. Liquidity is always going to be increasing. So I'd be curious. I'd be curious how how all that like affects my individual payouts and how I could spend my time or deploy the bot into other markets where I can have a bigger impact.
Would it be helpful if there was some information on here, how to, like how it works, how you make the money, or like how that money gets calculated?
Yeah, I think just more info on what exactly liquidity mining is, how it works, how you get paid out, empirically, like how the payouts are determined.
Right. Okay. Cool.
Because then you can if you're a trader, like you can all the fine print will just come to you once you have those. Once you know like what game you're playing effectively.
Right. Yeah. Makes sense. Okay. Yeah. Sweet. Thanks. So yeah, mining rewards balance. I guess that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
And next payout. So it's weekly. The reason for weekly, just for your context, is so that everything can be properly checked, so that there's like every payout is actually like double checked by, or like every payout from the smart contract is double checked, so it actually the right value. Active bots, that makes sense. Latest earnings, I guess also that chart makes sense. Or is there anything? Yeah. Okay.
It makes sense. I'm just I'm curious why it's increasing.
Oh, that's just to show that you're making money. Oh, but actually, it shouldn't show dates that you're not in here yet. I think that might be a mistake on our side, or like at least it's not November 3rd. But you might also just like toggle through the dots. But generally, this is how much um, you've made on these days, I guess.
Okay.
Um, and Snapshot Explorer. What do you think is the Snapshot Explorer? I know there's a little eye bubble, but it doesn't like work. Uh, but just by the information that you can see, what do you think that's supposed to be?
I would think it's like a trade plotter.
Mhm.
So how much money you've made
Right.
per trade.
Hmm.
Maybe I would even just call it that.
Right. Okay. Yeah. What did you call it?
Is that what it
Trade
is?
trade plotter?
Yeah. So it's well, it's not exactly. This isn't exactly a trade plotter. It's more like it's more like the money you're making per trade. So
Right.
it just kind of zooms into like all the actions that
Right.
the bot is doing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then so you need to execute a buy and a sell to capture some sort of money, right?
Right.
So it's kind of pairing the bids and the asks that you make and calculating the profit, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense. I mean, if you're like technically, you could probably also click into these, and it will show you which exchanges you've traded on and how much you've made exactly. But yeah, that makes sense. It's probably there's probably better terminology than the Snapshot Explorer. Snapshot is just because it's snapshotting the state of the system, but it's like it's actually true. It's like more or less of a back end terminology.
Yeah, and the strategy that I'm running, that I selected all of that in the CLI,
Yeah.
right? It'd be interesting to just have like a mention of it here instead of just active bots. You know, there's one of them running.
Right.
It'd be like active bot running. You know,
and here's
cross
the
market making bot on Harmony and Ether market, right?
Yeah.
So that could be helpful.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Sweet. I think that's pretty much it then.
That's it. Okay.
I think if you scroll further down, there would be only FAQs, and yeah, that's that. Yeah, cool. So that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I know that it's actually pretty basic in general, but it's already good to know that there's a couple of copy changes that we have to make and like remove some friction points in the beginning. How do you feel about the entire flow in terms of like all the things that you have to set up? Like you've been through, opening up Telegram and going through the landing page and then going through technically downloading it and connecting the API, etc. So there's a lot of steps. Like, how do you feel about the entire kind of experience of the miner, if you kind of look at it in retrospect?
Yeah, it's pretty expected, I would say, if you're doing any sort of cross-exchange market making.
Right.
It's it's more smooth than doing it yourself.
Right.
On the fly, by running like scripts and stuff on your computer. So it's definitely a user experience, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Because there was no user experience prior to this.
Yeah.
So I mean, I overall felt pretty good about it. I think just having more info on what it is, and when you're setting it up, highlighting the flow that you're about to go through up front would be good.
Right.
Just because if you just called it setting up a cross exchange market making bot, I wouldn't need to for me at least, I don't need to. That
Right.
enough gives me foreshadowing of all the steps that are coming, right?
That's a good point.
But once you throw in this liquidity mining term,
Yeah.
then it's like I don't know what steps I'm about to go through. So
Right.
highlighting that here would be pretty interesting.
Right.
And we spoke about changing the what we call the settings tab.
Yeah.
Yeah. So overall, the flow is good. When does all of the CLI get implemented in some sort of web app, or is that even technically possible?
It is, but technically it's later on the roadmap, so it's like a year from now on, I think Michael said. So it would be, or like half a year to a year.
Yeah,
At
I'm
least
sure it's
based on the
easy.
priorities. Yeah, there's a lot to do, and like it's a lot of work to get it running. But generally,
and Market Maker app is they're already used to this.
Yeah.
It's worth adding to that we did actually, way back in the end of March, actually explore building an interface for the CLI. And the feedback that Mike got from users from it was actually they wanted more strategies for making bots. They wanted more marketplaces. They were happy using the CLI if it had more functionality, and like the interface style, it could come much later.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I would make that trade-off there.
Yeah, and cool. But that makes a lot of sense. Where do you think, or like, how do you think, would you use this interface if that was actually like built out, or would you actually use that?
Yeah, then you would just have a lot of flows in between this and this, right?
Right.
To just set up different bots, different kind of configurations. I would probably play with backtests. I mean, backtests aren't really relevant for market making on these new tokens like Harmony. But if I were to have a bunch of strategies on hand, then I would want to simulate those strategies on previous data to see how they performed.
Interesting.
And maybe that indicates how they could perform like going forward.
Right.
And this is more for directional strategies, not so much market making, because the assumption is for market making that you're bringing liquidity, and that's going to change the micro market structure a little bit.
Right.
So yeah, just like more tools, more customization is probably what I would want from a web app.
Okay. And if that was everything that kind of existed, let's say like we would fix a couple of these details that you've mentioned with more information and like making us flow a bit smoother in general. How or in what kind of scenario would you kind of imagine yourself going through all this and using this? What would be the circumstances?
Okay, so that's a good question. Because you could...
Like technically you could just run the trading bot.
Yeah, you could just do it all on the CLI, right?
Yeah.
So it's more like an aggregate. It's just a GUI, right? So you can view everything you're doing on the CLI and be more attuned to what other opportunities are available.
Yeah. And get the rewards.
It just kind of pairs with it. I don't know. Maybe if there was a simple way to, on the command line, like see the available markets. I'm sure there's probably a way to do it now. Maybe that would just suffice. But I still think this is helpful. It's all in the direction where this is heading, right? So in a year, the CLI will be part of an app. And if you do want more mainstream people getting into this, or maybe you make this like a product, right?
Right.
This is like a token that earns 42% mining rewards, right? And then you have an even more distributed way of doing it. Then it's all kind of part of the next steps you have to take.
is it clear that you get rewarded for these particular for using these particular markets with your bot? So that
You could extend that a little bit further and say, is it clear that you get rewards by connecting this and not just running bots?
Oh, no, I guess not. I thought, because so what are you doing? You're selling your market making services to Harmony, right? That's what's going on effectively.
Yeah.
And then Harmony is making an assessment of the liquidity you've created for their token.
Yeah.
And then paying you the miner.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that wasn't clear.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I was almost for a second thinking that the payouts, the earnings, I was like, okay, this is probably what you're making per trade, and then the payouts.
Right.
I don't know. Yeah, now I'm a little confused, but. Maybe the payouts are what you are receiving for your trading services. But yeah, that's a good point, because you would, by running this bot, you're actually making money, right?
Yeah.
And this is more for just your market making services.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So you're basically getting both. On one hand, ideally you're making money by running the bots, but also on top of that, and this is what this miner is kind of going through, is you're getting rewarded for choosing particular trading pairs and trading on the pairs that, or like on the markets that you chose, because you're providing these with liquidity, because you are, investing your money in the trade.
Okay, so some sort of like breakout maybe of the P&L versus the payouts.
Right.
I think that would be pretty helpful. Yeah. I'm guessing you can easily view the P&L on the CLI.
Yeah. Right.
For what you're there's a good chance like your bot might actually be flat or like losing money even.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, like having that clearly here would be interesting. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm sure you could do it. You passed on your Hummingbot client ID, right? So Hummingbot servers know what kind of profits and losses you're making, I suspect. Yeah. And with your Binance API read keys, you can find out all the trade history.
Yeah.
So having a breakout there and some sort of like net P&L that you're getting,
right,
from the payouts plus how much your bot is earning.
Yeah.
That'd be super helpful.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think that's a big thing that we didn't take into consideration. But yeah, sweet. I guess that's that then. Or is there anything you would like to add, or anything that are still unclear, or would be better even? It's also fine if not. No, I'm just asking if you.
No, not really.
Cool.
Yeah, not really.
I'd like to hear, go ahead. Just on a completely another note, I'd like to hear what you're working on.
Yeah, man. So it's changing quite rapidly. So that's why I'm not like out in the open telling people exactly what we're working on. Right. But it's basically, the whole thesis is that investment advisory, asset management, and Web3 is going to look more distributed and more community driven, more like a eToro or maybe like a Quantopian or Numerai. So we're basically making a platform that makes it easy for people to share ideas and become their own asset managers or their own investment advisors, whatever you want to call it, and making a marketplace for those people to connect with capital. And it's all built on DeFi and Web3.
Crazy.
So hopefully the alpha will come out. The alpha will come out by the end of the year. And then we'll be user testing.
Nice.
It'll be fun.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, thanks.
Sweet. Yeah. Thanks to you. Thanks for your time, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it. This is useful
And
for me because I'm about to hit this phase very soon.
yeah, let me know if you need any help or any guidance. I'm happy to help out with anything.
Do not
And
worry, you will be getting a call from me.
all right, cool. I'll leave
We're
my phone
definitely
number in the
there.
comments.
We're in the community. We're there.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys.
all connected anyway. Sweet. Yeah, thanks so much.
Okay.
That was
Cheers.
really, really helpful. I know it didn't seem like it, but it was actually really, really cool. There's a lot of stuff we can draw out from here.
Yeah, and if you want any more comments offline, just hit me up.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks for your time, man. And let's keep in touch, and I guess I'll see you soon.
Yeah, great. Okay,
Good to
guys.
see you, man.
Cheers. Thanks for doing
Have a
this.
great day.
Bye. Cool. Awesome. That was very nice. And actually, like, I did not think about the fact that it's not quite clear that this you get the additional payout separately. Probably one of the main points we should work on. But yeah, that was only one of a handful of different interviews. So like whatever came out of here, still only one data point. So whatever we're going to work on, we'll still need the other interviews to actually prove what we said. Maybe everybody else gets it, and then most likely we won't have to change anything. But actually, I think that's not going to be the case. But yeah, so was very interesting. Great that a couple of people were watching it. I hope there was something valuable. If there's still any questions, just write them in the comments later or send us an email. And yeah, that's it for today, I guess. There's another thing that I've set up for tomorrow. I think I've sent out some invites, which is 6 p.m. It basically starts half an hour later after today, wherever you joined in from. So like it's 6 p.m. in Berlin time, should be like 8 a.m. or so in Pacific time. And then we'll do a wrap up and go through like all the results, like all the overlaps. And we're going to get ready for the next test, and I'm going to stop the stream and see you all some other time. Bye. Stop streaming.